I just got the Literary Witches Oracle, so I'm going to be giving this a deck interview, and I'll let you guys know what I think of the deck. We can kind of look at it a bit together. It's one of the boxes that open up as such, and it comes with a guidebook. I am in love with the color of this orange. It has a ribbon to pull it open, and the cards themselves have this beautiful black and white back, and they're kind of minimalist design, which I dig. I have given them a shuffle, I'm sorry, but we're going to interview them together. Shuffling them, they have a textured cardstock. They're not super glossy, which I kind of prefer because I find that gloss gives a weird reflection on camera. I'm trying to get it where you can see the shuffle. Let me shuffle it up here. They do go together well whenever you shuffle them correctly. The cards and everything, and before we get into the deck interview, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm seeing this deck is going to kind of require, which is intuition. There is not a set, there's not a long paragraph or a whole page about what these cards are, which is fine. For each author, we get a little bit about their life and 3 keywords. And then for the cards that are, like wolf and stuff like that, it's just these 3 keywords. So it's very intuition based, or that's what I believe it will be at any rate. Okay, so this is the deck's personality. This is Emily Bronte. What it says about her is that she died at the age of 30 from tuberculosis, and that pretty much she lived an uneventful life with her sisters, and that her imagination was where she would kind of get escape from that. The key words are dwelling, indulging, and hiding in fantasy. So the deck's personality is, it very much wants to play into the fantasy world, which I think makes a lot of sense with this being a literary-based deck. Alright, this is the deck's strength. This is Gertrude Stein. The key words here are perspective, making sense, frames, new ways of seeing. So what it says about her is that she owned a saloon and she would host some pretty high-end artists, and that she was influenced by them. So she tried to make cubic style writing where she took narratives and logic out of her poems. I'm gonna be honest, I don't quite understand. I think I'm going to have to look into her work a bit. But from what I can gather, the deck's strength is that it can kind of change your perspective while adding, fantasy into your life. And here we have the deck's weaknesses. This is Sandra Cisneros. I probably said that wrong. The body is the key words here. So it is joys of the body, sorrows of the body, and the senses. Sorry, I had to look. What it says about her is that she was raised Mexican-American, and that she explored misogyny in both cultures. And eventually she just vowed to never marry and to support herself and have her own home. And what I'm gathering is the deck's weaknesses is that it kind of has a very feminist stance for one. And then it also is not, so it's a weakness, so it is not very good at tending to the body. I believe that this deck is more mind and soul based. This is how the deck will help us grow. So this is Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Freedom is the key word. So fight the system, oppression. What was the next one? What frees you in the systems at work. So essentially she raged against the machine before it was cool. Okay. But her most famous book was about her postpartum experience, and essentially she wrote about what she saw in society that needed attention. So the deck is going to help us grow by helping us fight oppressive systems, and I love that. I'm here for it. Okay, when to call on the deck for guidance. This is Shirley Jackson, family. This was partnerships and children, the joys of domestics, and the sorrows of domestics. So when to call on this deck would be whenever you're maybe having problems at home, or maybe problems with your children. She wrote a lot about raising children with humor, and a lot of her work involved raising families, and she kind of mixed the supernatural into it. So you might want to call on this deck whenever you maybe are needing to add a little magic to the mundane, or whenever you're having some domestic issues. The best way to work with this deck, we got tree. The keywords to this are wisdom, good roots, and connection. So what I'm gathering is a good way to work with this tree would be a good way to work with this deck, excuse me. Maybe go sit under a tree if you can when you're reading it, but to definitely just try to get a deep connection to it. Whenever you approach this deck, make sure that you're grounded and that you have some good roots to what you're asking. And finally, what our relationship will be like. So this is Volcano. The keywords are patience, repression, and lust. And while I do not wish to have a lustful relationship with this deck, I do hope that it means that it's going to help free us from things that repress us and things that kind of take the pleasure out of life where we can't feel lustful. So all in all, I'm pretty excited to work with this deck. I do really like the way that it feels in my hands. I like the way it shuffles. I like the colors of it and all that good stuff. Now, I will say that I'm interested to see how a reading with this deck goes. You know, I know that the deck interview is one thing, but doing like an actual, cross or a mind, body, soul reading, like how's that going to work? But I guess, you'll just rely on your intuition, and there's nothing wrong with doing intuitive reading. So I'm glad I got it. Let me know what you think of the deck in the comments.